What up, cocksuckers? Welcome to the MMA Podcast. It is the 73rd episode, January 13th, 2014, and as always, we got a full plate of MMA loving for you. We got a card just in a couple days, UFC Fight Night, Rockhold versus Phillippou. That's going to be in Georgia on Wednesday night. Definitely looking forward to that. We will break down that card. And we actually have a ton of news to talk about. Keith Kaiser out as the executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Anderson Silva's leg healing pretty quickly. Nate Diaz turns down a Khabib Nurmagomedov fight. Fedor is still training MMA. Matt Brown, sexist. Sarah's an asshole. We'll talk about it all. Let's get to it. The MMA Podcast. Son?
We did it for the love of the game. We did it, mama. I did it for. Yeah. Mama, we did it. The game will never be the same. We did it, mama. I did it for.
You're listening to the MMA Podcast.
That's right, Lenny Hart. It is the MMA Podcast. It is the 73rd edition of the MMA Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are tuning in live, which we try and do this every Monday night, currently the time is midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. We might tweak it a little bit, but for the time being, go ahead and count on it being 12 a.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on Monday nights. And like I said, if you are tuning in, you can join the conversation. A bunch of ways to do so. You can call in, and there are two different numbers to call. If you're using just the normal phone, you can call us at 213-457-3380. That's 213-457-3380, or you can just Skype us at the MMA Podcast, all one word, just like you can visit the MMApodcast.com, or you can tweet us at the MMA Podcast. We will read your tweets live on air. And speaking of reading out tweets, before we went live, I asked if there were any topics we should cover, and it turns out I'm very forgetful and forgot a shitload of topics. And a shout out to our boy Nixon Saisanga, our girl Jen Adams, probably the nicest fucking person on the Twitters, and of course our boy Mystery Meds for sending in all sorts of good ass topics. And of course we are joined by a panelist of a host. Our boy Ross Finkelstein is taking a little break from the podcast game, but he will be back. So shout out to him at Ross Finkelstein, E before the L. We are joined by three bright minds in mixed martial arts. Two of them actually train. One of them is actually the smartest MMA analyst in the history of the world. We'll get to the two guys who train first, though. The first one, he is a multiple-time gold medal winner. He's fighting in the mean streets of Queens. He is Yao the Truth. What the hell is going on, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Happy to be back on the podcast once again. I'll get into, everything I have coming up, training, competitions, all that good stuff later. Sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, we'll do a little Yao's training log, talk about what your next match is going to be, how you are getting ready to be a professional mixed martial artist. And speaking of guys who train, he's a little exhausted tonight because he's been training his ass off at the gym. And when he isn't training his ass off, he's protecting the men and women, the citizens, the innocents of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He is the Baton Rouge gangster. What's going on, Alan?
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's great to be here. I don't know about innocence and Baton Rouge. I don't think those two words go together, but if you say so, I will agree. It's just great being here, being able to talk some MMA with you guys and speak our minds.
That's right. There's lots of shit going down on the mean streets of Baton Rouge. And finally, last but certainly not least, coming from Austin, Texas, you might know him as the Aunt Jimmy Show. You might know him as the word on the street. I know him as my buddy Ramses. What the hell is going on, cocksucker?
Not much, man. Thanks again for having me on. Just follow me on Twitter, the Aunt Jimmy Show. Word on the street, your life will be changed. That's all I have to say.
Well, that's a goddamn guarantee. Also, shout out to our friends across the pond, MMA Mental. They're always doing all sorts of beautiful shit over there. Check them out. MMA Mental on Twitter, MMAmental.com. And once again, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate the shit out of everyone who listens. And yeah, listen to us on Ustream on Monday nights. If it's not Monday night, you can listen to us on iTunes or YouTube. Just search the MMA Podcast, all one word. And of course, Tuesday nights, make sure you listen to Ramses with the Word on the Street. But let's get to the MMA Podcast. We didn't have a card last weekend to break down, so let's get straight to the news. And this is something we're going to be talking about for a while. Anderson Silva's leg broke all sorts of... it was all sorts of nasty. It was like the Corey Hill break. We watched his leg just curve around Chris Weidman's leg in a way that it shouldn't have. But on the bright side, well, there are two different things on the bright side. A, Anderson Silva looks pumped to come back. Actually, been saying he is very, very intent on coming back and fighting. Actually said some things about the Weidman fight. I don't have the quote right in front of me, but said that he would have won the fight if his leg hadn't have broken, which is a little questionable because he was getting his ass kicked before that, but that's a whole nother topic. The topic I want to talk about, though, which is the other positive thing, his leg is healing very quickly. And Dana White actually says he's going to be walking in 30 days. He obviously means with crutches. He's not just going to be strolling around. But yeah, his leg is coming back. We may actually see Anderson Silva fight late 2014, although it probably wouldn't be before, November or December. But yeah, his leg is healing up. And now that we have a little bit more of an idea on how his leg is doing, when do you guys think Anderson returns, and who do you think his next opponent will be? I'll do it in the same order we did the Twitter intros with. Yao, what do you think about your boy Anderson Silva? When's he going to be back? Who's he going to fight?
Well, his leg is healing pretty fast. When you're the greatest fighter in the world, you have a special body, and he obviously is very strong. His body's reacting well, and he's able to recover. And I think his next fight will be against George St. Pierre in 2015.
A super fight, George versus Anderson. Alan, what do you think? When will Anderson return? Who's he fight?
Let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. The only reason that Anderson Silva's leg is healing this quickly is because he's obviously taking the same magic jungle juice found in Brazil that Vitor Belfort takes in order to, juice to the maximum size that he does. I can't really say anything else on the specifics of that, but who does he fight whenever he comes back? After Chael Sonnen whips Vanderlei's ass, probably like in May or June, July, Chael will probably take an extended leave until Anderson's ready to come back at the end of the year, and Chael's going to beat his ass for the third time. So, yeah, I say Silva and Sonnen 3. They need a big pay-per-view for the end of the year. Why not?
Do you think there's any chance that Silva literally, because, his leg's going to be a little bit weaker, do you think Chael grabs his leg, snaps it off, and then beats him over the head with it?
Nah. I think Chael knocks him out. Doesn't even try to take him down. Just knocks him out clean.
Powerful. Ramses, what do you think about Silva's return? When's he come back? Who's he fight?
I think it's ridiculous, all this talk. It was a devastating injury. It's a career ender. If we do see him back, it's just going to be like the most pathetic matchup we've ever seen. It's going to be a work. And 2014, you're out of your mind, Jake. This man is going to feel this pain That's every step he takes for the rest of his life. He's in tremendous pain right now. I think he even said he can't even sleep. The fact that Dana White and Lorenzo are already there trying to work out a deal while he's hopped up on painkillers makes me sick. But I understand, he is there. They want him back because the other guy went crazy. GSP lost his mind. But yeah, I don't think Anderson's coming back, man. I don't believe it. Not in 2014. Hell no. And yeah, he should just retire, man. He's 38 and he's not healing fast. Like we don't even know that. We just have been told that, and by Dana White. So yeah, that's it. I don't think he's coming back.
Word up. That is the word on the street. Let's get to the next topic. Personally, I think we see an Anderson Silva return at the end of the year card in 2014. I think we see him fight Michael Bisping. That's a fight people have talked about for a while. And I actually was talking about it with our boy Ross Finkelstein, and although he might not be on the podcast, we all do chat. So I will bring you some insights from the Jew from time to time. I was saying I think we see, Silva return into the year 2014. Maybe see him, take on Bisping, and we agreed there. But where we disagreed is I'm saying if Silva wins 2, maybe 3 fights on his return, we see him fight for the middleweight championship again, and we might see a trilogy fight with Silva and Weidman. Ross doubts it, says he's getting older. B, Weidman is probably going to be moving up to 205 around that same time. But mark my words, I do think Weidman is the better fighter, and he obviously has beat him twice now at UFC 162 and 168. And I'm not calling those finishes flukes, because when he got knocked out at 162 for doing the Bernie, that wasn't a fluke. That was just Silva being, weird and dancing. The second one was a little more, quote-unquote, fluky, but I can't call it a fluke because Chris checked that kick expertly. So, I'm not calling them flukes, but they were very strange endings, and I would love to see a fight between Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman where it just ends not super strange. And I'm not saying I want a unanimous decision, I'm not saying I want a cookie cutter ending, but I just don't want another weird ass ending like the Bernie knockout or the broken leg. Let us move on. We'll move down a couple weight classes to the lightweights. It was actually pretty big news that Nate Diaz turned down the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight, according to the UFC. Shortly thereafter, Nate Diaz posts up that Dana White and the UFC are full of shit. He didn't turn down any fight. And since then, it looks like the truth has come out that it's not that Nate Diaz won't fight Khabib. It's not that Khabib obviously won't fight Diaz, because it seems like Khabib is just desperate for an opponent at this point. But the issue seems to be money, and Nate Diaz is not getting paid enough, which, I kind of understand. His last fight versus Gray Maynard, Nate Diaz only got paid $15,000 to show. That is not a lot. In comparison, his opponent, Gray Maynard, got paid $45,000 to a show and still ended up making more money than Nate did, even after the win bonus. It's pathetic. I don't know if this is a issue that the UFC is lowballing him and not offering him enough. I don't know if Nate's just being greedy. I don't know. We've had Nate's manager Mike Kogan on. I don't know how Kogan factors into it, but Nate is not fighting Khabib for the time being because the UFC isn't offering him enough money. I believe his contract expired after the Maynard fight. So, he is in the process of, I guess, trying to sign a new deal. I don't think, Diaz signs with anyone other than the UFC, because that would be a horrible career move. Diaz says the UFC's not giving him enough to fight Khabib. Ramses, whose side, quote-unquote, are you taking here? Do you think it's Nate's fault, the UFC's fault? It's obviously not Khabib's fault, but What do you think about all this Diaz nonsense?
Uh, uh, I'm actually getting tired of it now. Like these Diaz brothers, they have got to. For these comments alone, yeah, calling UFC and Dana White, saying that they were full of shit, he should have been fired on the spot. Nate Diaz, we're riding his brother's coattails. All right, let's face it. Without his brother also being famous, I'm sorry. He just got a win over a great name, Gray Maynard. I mean, that was a great win. But let's face it, Gray was punchy as hell. So yeah, he should be fighting the new blood, and he should shut up about the money because he fucking signed the fucking contract. He should make what he signed up to make. He should show up and fight whoever they give him. That's how champions are made. All right, not by ducking people and then bitching and complaining and insulting your boss. Uh, that's the word on the street.
Powerful Ramses. Alan, what do you think about this Nate Diaz bullshit?
I mean, normally I would like totally agree with Ramses and like shit all over the Diaz brothers at any chance that I got. But if you look at the numbers that gate did and that the viewers for Fox Sports for the finale that Diaz headlined, they did a lot better numbers than a lot of the other Fox Sports cards, and that was like a really weak card. And just on that fact alone, and the fact that he's been around so long, um, I do know that they're trying to lowball a lot of fighters right now. I don't know if it's because of the pay per view business just being down and everything, but like Dan Henderson was talking about on the MMA Hour today, that they're way far apart, and he was taking a substantial pay cut. I think that the UFC isn't paying Nate Diaz enough money. Like, I don't like the kid. I don't like what he said. He shouldn't have said it. I wouldn't disagree with them if they fired him for that, but to look at his pay and if that's all the UFC is paying him, I definitely think he should be getting paid a lot more than that.
Yeah, he definitely deserved more than the 15,000 he gets. And pay with the UFC is a funny thing because you have guys commonly who will make money outside of the given payout. So you never really truly know exactly what the dude made. But at the same time, even insinuating that Diaz only made 15K for that beautiful fight against Gray Gray Maynard is pretty ridiculous. Yao, what do you think about Nate Diaz not taking the Khabib fight because he's not getting paid, son? Pay me.
I think it's right. I mean, at the end of the day, he's going in there and fighting, and he wants a certain amount of money for it. This traces back to his manager. I believe that's his manager's job, to put contracts together for him and everything and tell him what's going on. But I don't blame him for not taking a fight because the money isn't right. It's about self-preservation, and they don't care. The fans don't care. Dana White doesn't care. The UFC doesn't care about his money or what he's making or anything. He has a life to live. He probably has a family to support, and he needs a certain amount of money to do that. So if it wasn't right to him, then yeah, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fighters only have a certain amount of time to make money. It isn't like they can make money up until their 60s fighting. So they definitely, have got to get a significant amount of money that they know once they retired, um, they can live with. And shout out to Jen Adams, who just said that Ramses nailed it as far as the pay shit goes. Let's move on to the next topic, a topic where we had MMA fans worldwide celebrating Keith Kaiser out as executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Keith Kaiser, I have been calling a piece of shit for a while now. He oversteps his boundary as an executive director of a state athletic commission, doing things like, oh, we all know why Diaz, was drinking a bunch of water before the fights. It's because he was trying to get marijuana out of his system. The fact that Kaiser said that, it is so far out of his responsibility. It was so inappropriate to just say, "Oh, of course he's drinking water because he's trying to get pot out of his system." You are the director of an athletic commission, and when you see an athlete drinking water, you're just going to assume he's trying to get pot out of his system. Yeah, thinking that is one thing, because yeah, maybe that is the case, but as the director to come out and say it, I have not liked Kaiser at all from the jump, and the fact that he's out is very, very encouraging. It's also a little bit of a head scratcher that it comes, just a couple weeks after the news that Weidman will be fighting Vitor Belfort in Las Vegas, and we all know Vitor Belfort is maybe now. I mean, the last year he's been so tied to TRT. I think sort of like Barry Bonds became the face of steroids with baseball. Vitor Belfort has become the face of TRT in mixed martial arts, and it may stay that way forever. He had those vicious knockouts this year against Luke Rockhold and Michael Bisping. Kaiser being out, long term it's going to change a lot of things, and if you want to talk about that, you can. But short term, especially with this Weidman versus Vitor fight, how do you think him leaving is going to change things, Alan?
I think it all just depends on who comes in next. I know that he was against Vitor getting a license, to fight, but who knows, man? I really don't. I don't have any insight into this, or it all just depends on who comes in next. But do I think that there was some money handed to Keith Kaiser in order to walk away? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see, Kaiser buying a mansion in the next couple months, see him get a position with the UFC. I think Kaiser leaving is a very, very, very good for business for Zuffa. Yeah, what do you think?
Wait, so are you saying the guy that would have stopped Vitor from being licensed to fight Chris Weidman on TRT is now out?
Correct. Kaiser was I think the only director of an athletic commission to say, if you have failed a drug test in the past, we will not give you a therapeutic use exemption, a TUE, to use testosterone replacement therapy. The fight still was probably going to happen with or without Kaiser, because I think people who have failed drug tests have gotten a TRT with Kaiser before, but it's rarely happened, and there would be a lot of stipulations. Kaiser was the guy saying he was the reason why Vitor was not fighting in the United States, because usually, the state of Nevada is what most states will, copy, and they will act accordingly on what the NSAC does. And if the NSAC says you don't get a TUE if you failed a drug test in the past, then most states are going to say the exact same thing. Now with Kaiser out, that may change. So yeah, Kaiser was the main guy as far as, keeping Vitor from fighting in the States. It was one of the main reasons he's fought so much in Brazil.
Yeah, this is definitely a formality. Yes.
Yeah, all right. Ramses, what do you think about Kaiser? He's out as the director.
Yeah, it really doesn't mean a damn thing. This is just he's just moving on to a higher paying job or whatever. They're just gonna shuffle it. This is like when the Catholic Church just shuffles the priests around after they molested little kids. That's what we're seeing here. Nothing's gonna change. Nothing. Word on the street.
Word on the street. Ramsey's not as optimistic as me as far as Kaiser getting the boot. One more topic before we get to Yao's training log, and that is Fedor apparently still training mixed martial arts. We thought we had seen the end of his career with the losses, obviously, to Verdum, then Bigfoot, then Dan Henderson. But apparently he's still training, still interested in competing. And the question I've got is very simple, and I'll start it off with Ramses. Is there any way Fedor Emelianenko, the best heavyweight in the history of mixed martial arts, any way he returns, any way he can return to elite heavyweight status?
I don't know if he'll ever be a lead or a champ or anything, but I know for a fact that if I was Dana White and Lorenzo, right now I'd be calling him, throwing more money at him than he's ever been thrown at him before. I think we'll see him in the UFC. That's my prediction. But elite and a champion, well, a lot of people would argue that in the first place. But yeah, I think we'll see him in the UFC. It's about time.
The UFC really could use a breath of fresh air as far as the heavyweight ranks go. I mean, you have guys in the top 10 that aren't really that close to sniffing a title shot. I mean, outside of, you have Kane, obviously. Cormier's moving down. Junior just lost a title fight. Bigfoot has lost 2 title fights to a Kane, or sorry, only one of those was a title fight, but still, I think, or were 2 of them. It doesn't matter. Look it up yourselves. Google that shit. You have Brown and Verdum, who are actually going to fight each other in April. They seem like the only, sensible people to fight for the title anytime soon, because aside from Silva, who's, fought for it enough in the last year, Junior, the same thing, Hunt, he, Overeem, he's going to be fighting Mir soon. Barnett just lost to Brown. Miocic fighting Gonzaga later this month. The heavyweights could definitely use that breath of fresh air that is Fedor, and they probably would throw quite a bit of money at him. You're right, Ramses. Yao, do you think Fedor there's any chance he returns to elite heavyweight status?
Absolutely not. I mean, come on. I didn't even know Fedor was still alive, and I'm not even trolling. No way.
Word. Alan, what do you think about Fedor? Can he return to the top?
I was never really big on Fedor like everybody else. If you look at Fedor and you look at his body, you could tell that he was taking steroids whenever he was fighting in Pride, and that was one of the main reasons why he was really good, was because he was on that juice. Because towards the later part of his career, you can tell he got off the juice and he started losing and getting knocked the fuck out. So I don't think he has a chance at even getting signed by the UFC. And if they did sign him, that's all that money that they're signing towards him is just pissing away the future of the UFC, because they should be paying all the other guys who are there being established right now. Fedor is old news. They better not sign him. I know the heavyweight division is kind of, lacking, but I would be more for him signing Brock Lesnar than Fedor.
Word. Lesnar was actually a lot of rumors floating around about him being re-signed around 168, but it turns out the guy's got an exclusive deal with the WWE until 2015, so we won't be seeing that anytime soon. And you talking about him doing steroids back in Japan. I don't know if he did or not. It isn't. I don't really say it's obvious, but yeah, it's a possibility. A lot of people talk about JMMA being like the glory years of mixed martial arts, which there were a lot of amazing fights in Pride. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I still feel like we're still paying the consequences for the irresponsibilities of those companies over in Japan. I mean, why is Vitor on TRT? Like the last thing we were just fucking talking about. Vitor, the reason he's on TRT is because he juiced back when he fought in Japan, and his testosterone levels are lower than that of a lower person, because when you take steroids, your body starts to depend on it, creates a lot less natural testosterone. So in a way, if it wasn't for the irresponsibility of JMMA not drug testing their fighters, there would be a bunch of fighters that wouldn't need to be on TRT. This whole TRT thing would be null and void. But unfortunately, we are at the point where we have a ton of fighters who fought back in the JMMA era, took a bunch of steroids, and honestly, I don't blame them. If steroids are legal, they're not drug testing you, and your opponent's taking steroids, of course you're going to take steroids. But Yeah, I'm looking forward to 15, 20 years down the line not having these fighters who, came up in JMMA where they were almost encouraged to take steroids and would suffer from it for the rest of their lives. Let's move on to Yao's training log. We usually do a little bit of music, but Yao said, "Fuck the music. I don't want music. Let's just get straight down to business." Yao, how has training been going? How often are you training, and when is your next competition?
Yeah, training's been tough. It's been really tough. It always is. My next tournament is February 8th in New York, and that's 4 weeks from now.
Word, yeah. Recently, I saw that I'm not gonna queue up the celebration music, even though I didn't have it queued up. Because you know what, Yao, you deserve it. Recently promoted from white belt to blue belt. How's it feel to be a blue belt?
It feels the same. There's just more pressure now because like I'll be in the blue belt divisions now in tournaments, so it's just a lot more pressure.
Well, for the sake of those other white belts, I'm almost glad you're at the blue belt ranks because I was watching your matches over at the Good Fight. Those motherfuckers didn't have a chance against Yao, the truth. Tell us a little bit more about the competition you're going to be in early February. Is it like a giant competition? Is it a more small thing? I'm not really familiar with. It's the New York Open, you said?
Yeah, it's actually the Good Fight New York Open 2014. It'll be at Nyack College. It'll be a very big tournament. A lot of people will be in it. It's I'm doing the 162 weight class, and I'm actually 169 as of tonight.
All right, and kind of looking forward, we were talking about this a couple nights ago when we were just chatting. That's sort of the short term plan. What is the long term plan for 2014?
The long term plan is basically to do a combination of jiu-jitsu tournaments and Muay Thai kickboxing fights.
So when is the first Muay Thai fight you think or the first Muay Thai competition you want to get into?
Should be in a couple months actually, before April for sure.
Word. So you're doing a little bit of striking and a little bit of grappling to get ready for mixed martial arts. When do you think? Obviously, you'll fight an AMI MMA fight before you even think about going pro. And I've heard it's really cool talking to people on this show and the word on the street, hearing you ask fighters questions as a prospect. And I feel like we've heard multiple guys say, just take your time, don't rush it. Do you want to have an AMI MMA fight in 2015? Is that your goal?
Absolutely, that's the goal actually. Especially not the early part of 2015, but towards the end of 2015, I plan to have my first MMA fight, amateur of course, and yeah, like speaking to all the fighters that you guys have had on and everything, and on the word in the street on this one, it's been amazing, like the advice that they could give. So I got to thank you guys, you and Ramses.
Definitely, man. I'm definitely rooting for your success. It couldn't happen to a better guy. And last question before we get back into the news. Ideally, would you be going pro in 2016 then, or I mean, it's a little far down the line, but do you have a number in your head? Would you only like to do one or two AMI MMA fights, a handful, more than a handful?
I I don't know. That's very very far from now, so it's a tough question.
Word. Well, as always, we will be there every step of the way, and we are rooting for you. Anything else you want to talk about? Diet, training, choking people out with your actual blue belt? What's going on?
No, just thank you guys and everyone listening. You can follow me if you're not already on Twitter at Yao underscore the truth, YAO underscore the truth.
Yeah, and watch me and Yao insult each other, say racist shit back and forth to one another, talk about knocking each other out. It's good times, and we will get back to the news. A few more topics to knock out before we break down UFC Fight Night 35. Matt Brown making it in the news. He has a new podcast called Legit Man Shit, where he talks about, you guessed it, legit man shit. And he said the comment that women don't have knockout power, and he would prefer they fight topless. And a lot of people were calling it a sexist comment. Personally, I think, we don't know whether Matt Brown was just joking around, saying he wants to see women fight topless, because what dude wouldn't want to see women fight topless? But, if the joke was that he likes topless chicks, that's one thing. If the intent of the joke was women's MMA is worthless and I don't want to see it, and the only reason I would watch it was if they were topless, that's another thing. I don't know if I agree with that. But I think there really is a little bit of a double standard in mixed martial arts, because just a day later, you had Ronda Rousey say she wants 57 of Fedor's babies, and no one took any umbrage over it. Ha ha, Ronda, you are funny. I also love Ronda, and I'm not trying to say she was wrong at all for saying what she said. I thought it was hilarious. But I think it shows a double standard, because, you have a male MMA fighter being like, I like topless chicks, and a women one saying, I want this fighter's babies. But the guy is wrong. I mean, imagine if the script was flipped. If Ronda Rousey, said something like, oh, I want to see every guy fight in banana hammock underwear or pantsless, I don't know. And Matt Brown said he wants to have babies with a hot MMA fighter. People would be all over Brown, and I think it kind of points out a double standard. I was talking with Ross the other day, and he disagreed, saying that Matt, was really saying that women's MMA is worthless, and I think that's what people are taking umbrage over. But what do you guys think? Is it a double standard, or was Brown wrong for saying what he's saying? I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying, "Oh, if I was at my job and I said I wanted to see topless women, I'd get fired." Well, you're not a UFC fighter, and UFC fighters aren't exactly employees of the UFC. They're more independent contractors. What do you guys think about the comment, Alan?
Whether he's saying it out of disrespect or, how, if that's how he truly feels and he doesn't think that women belong in the UFC. I think what he was pointing out really, though, was the truth is that what, red-blooded, human male on this planet wouldn't want to see women fight topless inside the octagon. Who would not pay money for that? I mean, it would be hilarious, and it'd be funny.
I would have paid $100 for that UFC 168 pay-per-view. Who's up next? Ramses, what do you think about this comment? Was Matt Brown in the wrong, or is everyone saying he was wrong in the wrong?
I don't know. I'd have to listen to it all in context. I haven't even heard the exact quote. I haven't never listened to his podcast. This isn't even that big of a deal. So who's the asshole that made this into a story online and got him in trouble?
Exactly.
Fuck that guy. So yeah, no problem here from me. All good, Matt Brown.
It probably wasn't a guy. It was probably some chick.
You have Rogan who says a lot of crazy shit on his show, but what I love about it is no one holds his nuts up to the fire, because everyone knows the beauty of the JRE, and it's the reason I've liked it from the first episode I heard of it, and that is the podcast that made me get into doing this, is that he says whatever the fuck he wants, and that's a beautiful thing, and trying to take that away from him is not a beautiful thing. Yao, what do you think about the comments? Who's in the wrong? What the fuck is going on?
I actually have to agree with Ramses. I mean, I didn't hear it, the way he said it, I don't know how to interpret it. Um, you know, I'd have to hear it, really. And that's it.
Word. Next topic. We're just flying through these. Matt Serra. Good. Fuck him. He admitted on the MMA Hour that he was the one saying "good fuck him" when Anderson Silva hurt his leg. I actually have the quote in front of me. I believe when this happened, when Anderson dropped, we didn't see what you guys saw at home. We just saw him drop. So I've seen 1,000 sparring sessions where a guy kicks an elbow or a guy kicks a knee and the guy drops and the sparring session's over. Or if it's a fight, then the fight is over. I'm not thinking the guy's legs in half. So when that moment happened, it felt like an eternity, but it happened very fast. It's all in the moment. So I was like, did we win? Oh, fuck it, good. But it came out, oh, good, fuck him, we won. But man, listen, Anderson is not only a legend, but anybody, it wasn't me watching that thing break. Oh, wait, sorry, I misread that. But man, listen, Anderson, not only is he a legend, but anybody, it wasn't me watching that thing break. I didn't even see it until the next day how that thing broke his leg. We're not heartless pricks. We're not bad sportsmen. He's got kids. He's got people that love him. If I hurt anyone's feelings, his kid, his wife, I do apologize. It did not come out of a bad place or a negative place. It was like, oh good, fuck it, it's over type of thing. Again, man, that's how it went down. Everyone was disturbed by the leg break. But yeah, you're a huge Silva fan. What do you think about this apology from Matt Serra? Do you accept it, or are you kind of, pissed at him for screaming, good, fuck him, when he broke his leg?
When it's a fight of that magnitude, emotions are running high. Matt Serra said some things that, people took different ways. I stay away from any media or social media that has to do with that fight. So I didn't even know this happened, but the apology accepted from Team Silva, so it's all right.
Hell yeah. Ramses, was this unsportsmanlike or not?
You know how it is, man. You get caught up in the heat. But yeah, I don't believe for 1 second that he didn't see what happened to Anderson. I mean, I saw it. I tweeted the second it happened. His fucking legs hanging off. So there's no way he didn't see that as well. I mean, there's a chance he missed it, but I don't believe him, man. And by the way, that's one of the perks of purchasing an actual UFC on pay-per-view in HD. You can actually see stuff like that as it happens. But yeah, man, he just got caught up in the moment. I mean, you can understand that. We've all done it. We're all guilty of the same thing, so I'm not about to... I'm not about to punish this man for just being excited about his dude winning. And he did apologize, so that's the end of that in my mind.
Alan, good. Fuck him. Unsportsmanlike or not. You with us, Alan?
Yep. What do I think about what Matt Serra said when Anderson broke his leg? It's probably exactly what I would have said if I would have been ringside whenever Anderson's leg got broken. Good. Fuck him. And I still say it today. Matt Serra, you're weak for apologizing for saying it. It's what should have been said. It's what Anderson deserves. It's karma. So if you want to play around in the cage and disrespect your opponents and cheat, you know what? God's going to make you pay. And guess what? He made him pay with a broken bone.
Yeah, and we all are sort of saying Sarah isn't a bad person. That apology definitely felt sincere. Somebody who didn't necessarily think he was so sincere, Tim Sylvia, who went after Matt Serra on Twitter for being unsportsmanlike. In response to Sylvia going after him, Sarah had some interesting words on Sylvia, saying, "Ever talk to the guy? Moron. A total moron. You know what's funny about him? Even when he was the champion and he wore his belt out to the clubs, he never knew why he wasn't the face of the UFC. Listen, I'm no George St. Pierre when it comes to look, but it's one thing if you look like that and you have a gold and have a heart of gold and are a nice guy, but this guy is a piece of shit, man." So Sarah and Tim Sylvia, old school UFC beef, not getting squashed anytime soon. And really quickly, before we get to the next topic, which we actually are flying through this show, luckily, our boy Ramses isn't feeling that well, so I really do thank him for being on the show. The whole UFC Fight Pass thing, I do want to touch on it on 1 second. The UFC has so colossally fucked up this Fight Pass thing. The passwords are not encrypted, so apparently your passwords are in jeopardy over with the UFC. I tweeted a link about that this morning. On top of that, if you want to cancel your account, which there are a lot of people who signed up just for the free trial, apparently if you want to cancel your account, it's not a bang bang thing. You have to email the UFC, who Crooklyn, our friend from Bloody Elbow, Crooklyn tried to cancel her account. The UFC didn't get back to her till 5 days later, and then was like, "Oh, what's your username and password?" And it's apparently like over a week-long process if you actually want to cancel your account. So not only has UFC Fight Pass screwed the pooch there, but now with the WWE coming out with their own network, the WWE did it perfect. And I'm quoting Ross a bunch on this show because I've talked to him about a bunch of different things. But the man who created the pay-per-view market, Vince McMahon, is now effectively killing it. I mean, he's basically offering for, I think it's like, Alan, you would know, what is the price of the new WWE network?
It's $9.99 a month. So basically, you get $600 worth of pay-per-views for only $120 if you subscribe for the entire year.
Yeah, so basically you pay $10 a month. Not only do you get every pay-per-view included in that for free, but you also get every past event, a library of awesome stuff, and it's a 24/7 channel where you get original programming with it too. Not only is it killing the whole pay-per-view market, it's also, more importantly, at least for them, killing the illegal stream market, which, I know so many people who watch illegal streams of UFC events. I would never do such a thing. But, when you're asking me to shell out $60 for a 2-hour event, and in 2012, 2013, if you wanted to buy every pay-per-view, you're spending over $1,000. I don't care how much you're making, whether you're making $20,000 a year, whether you're making $100,000 a year. $1,000 a year is an investment. That's a major investment. I would gladly, and I'm sure I have tons of friends who would gladly pay $10, even $20 a month. But until the UFC sort of pulls their head out of their ass and goes the same direction as the WWE, I don't know, just this whole fight pass thing has not started off as well as it can. Just a few more news topics before we get to UFC Fight Night 35, Rockhold versus Phillippou. Ken Shamrock is now apparently a bodyguard for 50 Cent. There were pictures circulating of Shamrock just standing around acting as bodyguard. And what I was thinking about was, is this a lateral move for Ken Shamrock, turning into a bodyguard for 50 Cent? Is this a move up? Is this a move down? What do you guys think, Yao? I know you're a huge fan of 50 Cent.
I am, but Ken Shamrock, I mean, it's honest work. Maybe he needs some money. He can do it. I think he could do it well. Yeah.
Word up. Alan, is this a lateral move, a move up, a move down? What do you think about Shamrock being a bodyguard?
Well, one thing's for certain, he's definitely getting paid more than Nate Diaz. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a good move for him. He looked a little small and a little old because he's getting up there. He definitely doesn't need to be fighting anymore. And being a bodyguard, a lot of times, it can be really stressful, but it has a lot of benefits to it. And if he's working for 50 Cent, then he's getting paid really well. So I think it's a really great move.
That's right. Ramses, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. First off, it's 50 Cent. Let's get it right, people.
Sorry.
He deserves our respect. It is a step up for Ken Shamrock, but I hope he knows what he's getting into. Fitty has been shot at more times than every U.S. president combined. And honestly, Ken, he wasn't. It is a step up because he wasn't doing anything before. So yeah, anytime you go from unemployed to employed, it's a step up. I mean, he was down to his last fucking 50 cents. Word on the street.
Yeah, Ken Shamrock ain't no wanksta. Let's move on. Second to last topic. Who should Michael Bisping fight next? There are a lot of names floating around. This is one of our Twitter follower submitted topics. Who should Michael Bisping's next opponent be? Tim Kennedy seems like the likely favorite. Mark Munoz recently called him out. You got Kung Lee, the winner of Costa Phillippou versus Luke Rockhold. I don't think he gets one of those guys in the top 5. But, when Bisping's eye is totally healed up and he's ready to field another opponent, who should he fight next? Ramses?
He's got to fight whoever they give him, man. And yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not even sure that he's back to being able to see out of the eye still. Yeah, he's gonna have to find the right doctor to clear his ass for that. So he will. I mean, shit, it sounds pretty major. But who he gets next? It doesn't matter. Probably Rockhold, right? That's the one that makes the most sense. Tim Kennedy, I don't know, such a boring fighter. But yeah, it's gonna be one of those Strikeforce dudes, in my prediction.
He wasn't boring in his last fight with that, lunging left hook that knocked out Rafael Natal. Personally, I think it's going to be Kennedy versus Bisping. There is a lot of shit talking going on. Kennedy is a hilarious dude, and Bisping is pretty trollable. So I would just enjoy the lead up of Kennedy saying ridiculous shit about Bisping and Bisping taking offense to it. Ramsey's cackling in the background because he thinks Kennedy versus Natal was a work. Alan, who should Michael Bisping fight next?
It's definitely got to be Tim Kennedy. I mean, he's Tim Kennedy has faced some top guys in Strikeforce, and he's proven that he's definitely mid tier to top tier, top 5 in the middleweight division. Once he gets a few more wins, I think he matches up really good with Bisping. Kennedy's got a hell of a gas tank. But with their Twitter beef, man, it's like you said, it's hilarious watching these two go back and forth. They're very creative. They're both intelligent guys, and I think them headlining a card, the lead-in, with the shit talking, would be so much fun to watch, man. I see great things from a matchup with these two guys, and I think the fight delivers as well.
Yeah, the truth. Michael Bisping is white. Who should he fight next?
Oh, it has to be Tim Kennedy. I mean, they're already promoting the fight on Twitter, so they can't just kill that. They already have some type of promotion going, so they're going to continue it and match these two up. It'll be a formality.
And may I just say, before we move on to the last news topic, we are making excellent time here. We aren't even 55 minutes in yet. We're breezing through cock suckers. Last bit of news. Of course, the UFC has never goes to Florida. I think the last time they were in Florida was 2007 or something. It has been a while. Maybe once since 2007, but
yeah, wasn't the Johnson and McCall There was a FX card that was in Florida that did
Yeah,
terrible.
you're right. You're right. I think it was in like Tampa or
2012.
South Florida or something. But the UFC rarely makes trips to Florida, and it's of course, when I move away from Florida, they plan something in Florida. UFC on Fox, I guess 11 is going to be in Orlando at the Amway Arena. I hope all my buddies back in Florida go to it. It's going to be April 19th. And the main event's going to be Fabricio Verdum against Travis Brown. The co-main again, Misha Tate versus Liz Carmouche. Who do you think wins both of those fights? I have Travis Brown and Liz Carmouche. What do you think think about the fights? And what do you think about Florida, more importantly, Alan?
I think I'm going, and I think that Travis Brown just has too much in the gas tank for Verdum. I think Verdum's an afterthought. I don't think that he can hang with the top guys in the division. Yeah, he beat Nogueira last, but let's be honest. Nogueira was a broken man. Frank Shamrock broke him, snapped his arm in half, ended his career in all intents and purposes. And then Rousey and Carmouche and Tate. I think Misha Tate dominates that fight. I think that fight's made for Misha Tate. I really didn't want to see that fight happen because I didn't want to see Liz Carmouche lose another fight. But she's a 125er. Let's be honest. She doesn't need to be in there at 135. These girls are too big for her. I think Tate's able to take her down, and then Tate's got more on the feet. And I think Tate's been into such deep waters with the submission game. I don't think that Carmouche is able to, even if she does get Tate's back or anything, I don't think she's able to finish Tate.
Word up. Yeah, what do you think about these two matches? Verdum versus Brown, Tate versus Carmouche. And what do you think about the Sunshine State, the state of Florida? It's a state a lot of people hate, a lot of people like to visit. What do you think?
Well, the only thing good about Florida is the Blackzilians down at the Jocko Hybrid Training Center, but
and
it'll
Jen
be
Adams, nicest person on Twitter.
Yes, that also, but
And no, income tax, state income tax,
Yeah, something like that. I think
sales tax. I think
income tax. There's definitely a sales tax, but I think it's like lowered income tax or property tax. I never made enough in Florida to where I really looked into it. But if you are a millionaire, it's nice to live in Florida or Texas. Word on the street, yeah.
But the main event, Travis Brown fighting Fabricio Verdum. They're throwing Travis Brown, this fight. This is a layup fight, honestly. And then you have Misha Tate and Liz Carmouche. I don't want to see either of them lose. Going Misha Tate.
Going with Misha. Ramses, before we get you to pop off, what do you think about this card? Verdum Brown, Misha Tate, Carmouche, and of course, tell us something ridiculous about the state of Florida.
I've actually never been to Florida, but one of the best bands, my favorite band of all time, Virgos Merlot, came out of there. Check them out. Virgos Merlot, like the fucking wine. But yeah, man. Travis Brown. I'll admit, I thought he was a bum for a long time, but now he's starting to. I'm not impressed really. He's just not as much of a bum anymore, so I'll give him at least that much. And the UFC just tweeted out that Travis Brown got his new contract 2 minutes ago. So that leads me to believe they're going to build him up. Like, I don't see anything about no Verdum being tweeted out by the UFC. And what is it? Tate against Carmouche. I think Misha Tate is probably gonna get smashed again. I mean, Ron is not even that great of a striker, and still had her. Carmouche on that one. I think it's gonna be one of these cards with where it doesn't sound too good or exciting on paper, but ends up being awesome, though. I'll give it that.
Word up. And Ramses, you mentioned you got to pop off. You aren't feeling that good. We do appreciate you spending as much time as you did. Where can people find you? And give us a little teaser for tomorrow night's Word on the Street.
Yeah, guys, sorry, I'm just working too hard, sleeping too little, and every time that happens, I get sick, dehydrated, acid reflux. You don't even want to hear the details. But yeah, it's not going to be a fun night for me from here on out. But I do apologize to everybody for not being able to give you guys more energy, more of the word on the street. But hopefully, I'll be back 100% tomorrow. We were trying to have Chael Sonnen's Brazilian fan club on, the leaders of it. But that's going to have to be pre-recorded, not only due to the language barrier, but the time difference. So tomorrow night, not sure what's planned on the show. Hopefully I'll be 100%. Like I said, man, I feel like shit, and I'm going to go lay down or something. But I'll keep listening, guys, always.
That is the Word on the Street. Ramses, thank you for coming on. We love the shit out of you. And we'll hear from you tomorrow night.
Later, guys.
Later, brother. And if you actually saw the picture, Team Darkside landed safely in Sao Paulo. We had Coach McQuarrie, Coach Clayton, Coach Huey, and Coach Magalhaes. And if you looked at the picture, our very own Coach Jamie Huey was wearing a Word on the Street t-shirt. Shout out to Ross, Ramses, and Amber for all making that happen. And, of course, Jamie... it was, awesome to see him sporting the Word on the Street apparel. And yeah, that about does it for the news topics, but we still have a fight card to break down. But before we get to the fight card, let's do the 10 solid seconds of sports, the segment where we talk about all the sporting events of the week that were not MMA. Let me wet my whistle real quick. Let's do it. The NFL divisional round comes to an end. We have two amazing conference championships next Sunday. The NFC West Titans, Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers travel to Seattle, take on Russ Wilson. The Seahawks doesn't get any better than Brady versus Manning and Denver in the AFC. NFL's all that matters in the sports world this time of year. Always difficult there. UFC Fight Night 35. That's it. That's going to be this Wednesday in Duluth, Georgia. I'm not sure the start times. I'll actually look that shit up right now. But, it's... it's better than the UFC Singapore card, but it's not exactly the most stacked card I've ever seen, but it's definitely one I'll watch for sure, coming from the arena at Gwinnett Center from Duluth, Georgia. First and foremost, I want to talk about the prelims. We'll talk about them all in a big bunch. And basically, I just want to ask which fights stand out to you, and who do you think wins them? On the preliminary card on the UFC Fight Pass, we're going to see a lightweight fight between Charlie Brenneman, who just moved down to 155, taking on Beneil Dariush. This originally was supposed to be a fight a little bit higher up the card between Jason High and Adlan Amagov. However, Amagov was forced out of the bout due to an injury and was placed by promotional newcomer Beneil Dariush. In turn, High pulled out of the bout citing appendicitis and was replaced by returning veteran Charlie Brenneman. Another lightweight fight on that fight pass, Vince from Halpashell taking on Garrett Whitley. And then on the Fox Sports 1 prelims, we're going to have a flyweight fight between Alptekin Ozlik and Louis Smolka. We got a middleweight fight between Trevor Smith and Brian Houston, a lightweight fight between Isaac Valleyflag and Elias Silverio, and a lightweight fight between Ramsey Nijam and Justin Edwards. 4 of the 6 fights on the prelims coming from that lightweight division, so we'll definitely see a lot of sorting out. I'm definitely going to have my eye on Charlie Brenneman at 155. He actually was on our second show ever. We had Brenneman on. I think we asked him. I think he was on his way to get chicken wings. We ended up talking to him for 5 minutes about chicken wings or something. But yeah. What do you think about the prelims? Who is going to shine? What fights are you going to make sure to watch?
I gotta like that Charlie Brenneman, fighting at 155. very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to that the most out of anything.
Word, yeah, he beat a couple pretty impressive guys at welterweight, I think including Rick Story. So, yeah, him at lightweight is pretty interesting. Alan, what do you think? You still with us, Alan? Is Alan still on the Skype call?
Yeah, I'm still here.
There he
Just
is.
having trouble unmuting my phone. I definitely am also excited to see Charlie get another opportunity to fight in the UFC. His last fight in the UFC where it was like a flash knockout to where he got popped and then he went down and bounced right back up. The fight shouldn't have been stopped.
To Kyle Noak.
Yeah, he recovered really well, and like he said, that was a bum fight. He shouldn't have lost it. He said that he just he, it made him go back and reevaluate his life and everything about his fighting career and how he approaches it. And he said that he's completely changed everything. And I think Ariel Helwani had posted a couple of his KO victories that he got on the independent circuit. That how just crazy they were. And I think we're gonna see some magic from Charlie. So I'm really excited to see him get that fight. As far as the other fights, uh, are we doing all of them?
No, we're just doing those prelims.
Yeah, that's it for those.
And the start times, I have it in front of me now. The Fight Pass prelims, those two fights, Brenneman, Darush, and Pichel Whitley, that is going to start at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific. The Fox Sports 1 prelims, that's going to be 4 fights. That starts at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific. And the main card on Fox Sports 1 will start at 7 Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. But those prelims will also be on Fox Sports 1, so you can just stay tuned to the same channel. Let's move on to the main card. We're going to talk about those first 3 fights in the main card, and then move up to those top 3 fights. A featherweight match between Cole Miller and Sam Cecilia. I'm always interested in, Ground Wizard Cole Miller. A flyweight match between John Moraga and Dustin Ortiz. You know Moraga from that title shot of recent at flyweight. And, of course, Yoel Romero taking on Derek Brunson. Romero, a very interesting guy. He in wrestling, he defeated Olympic gold medalist Cale Sanderson on 3 different occasions. He's one of the only people to ever beat him in freestyle competition, so the fact he beat him 3 times really says a lot. He is fighting out of American Top Team in Coconut Creek, Florida. What do you guys think about these 3 fights? My eyes are going to be on Yoel Romero versus Derek Brunson. I think that's a hell of a matchup. Alan?
I definitely am looking forward to the Brunson fight. I know a lot of people are picking Romero, but I think Derek Brunson is the better, more well-rounded fighter, and I think the kid's only lost to Jacare, I think, and one other person. I mean, he's a really good fighter, man, and I just think that he's more adept at MMA than Romero is. I mean, we haven't even seen Romero use his wrestling or know if he can use his wrestling in an MMA environment. All he's done is basically just stand and bang. So I'd be interesting to see what type of wrestling we see in that matchup, because Brunson also is a wrestler, and it's always good to get to see one of the tough live alumni, Sam Cecilia, training partner of Mike Mav. He's always exciting, man, and that's why Dana White keeps him around. He's another little Diego Sanchez type fighter.
Are you defusing a bomb?
No.
Alright, good, because it sounded like that motherfucker was about to go off. Yeah, the truth, what do you think about these first 3 cards on the main card, or these first 3 fights on the main card, pardon me?
I'm actually looking forward to seeing what John Moraga brings this time around. He lost his last fight to, the best fighter in the world, Demetrius Johnson, and I want to see what he brings after losing that fight? What changes he's made, if any, and how he approaches fighting as a whole now.
Word up, yeah, those are going to be some interesting fights on the main card. We're going to talk about the top 3 fights, each one in, we're going to break each one down individually. The first one is TJ Dillashaw taking on Mike Easton. Easton was on a hell of a tear, had won 8 in a row till his last 2 fights back in December 2012. He lost to Rafael Assunção, and in April, his only fight of 2013, Easton dropped a fight to Brad Pickett. TJ, on the other side, himself was on a little 4-fight win streak after losing the Ultimate Fighter 14 finale to John Dodson. And he, too, lost to Rafael Assunção, lost via split decision. A lot of people thought that he really won. Had a pretty decent year in 2013 before that, defeating Issei Tamura and Hugo Viana, both by KO or TKO within the first 5.5 minutes of each fight. What do you guys think? Dillashaw, Easton? I think Dillashaw is just going to be too much for Easton to handle. The alpha male product, those dudes know what they're doing. And Dillashaw, he is a really, really young dude in the sport at 27. I think he will. I don't know if he does it in the next year or two, but I think he will eventually fight for a title. And I have Dillashaw winning this one via either TKO late in the fight, because we have seen Easton gas, or via unanimous decision. Yao, who you got in this one? Easton or Dillashaw?
I'm actually really going for Mike Easton. I'm really hoping he wins this fight. It's a very tough fight for him, as it is for TJ Dillashaw as well. But this is a fight I'm looking forward to out of all the rest of the fights on the card, prelims, main card, etc. It's a tough fight for both gentlemen, but I'm going for Mike Easton.
Word up. Alan, who you got?
Gonna definitely have to go with the white guy, just because, I went with a black guy. Not for any particular reason.
That's a good-ass call. Yao is a racist. Let's get to the co-main event between Lorenz Larkin and Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares riding a 4-fight win streak. His last win this past August, a unanimous decision victory against Bubba McDaniel, a guy who I will admit I hated a little bit on Bubba during that season of The Ultimate Fighter, but I got a chance to meet him in Las Vegas during UFC 167. Really, really nice dude, and now that, I've got a working computer once again, we're actually going to aim to get him back on the podcast pretty soon, or not back on the podcast, but on the podcast. Tavares' last win against McDaniel, he's 11-1, his lone loss to Aaron Simpson back at UFC 132. Lorenz Larkin, on the other hand, he also only has one loss on his record to Francis Carmont. Back April 20th, 2013, that UFC on Fox Henderson versus Melendez card. He also has a no contest, as weird as that is, on his record against Muhammad Lawal. It was originally a loss via knockout, but the result was overturned after Lawal tested positive for steroids back in January 2012. Lorenz Larkin, Brad Tavares, as far as they match up height and weight-wise, Tavares is the bigger fighter. He has 2 inches on him on both height and reach. Tavares 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. Larkin 5'11" with the 72-inch reach. Alan, who do you have in this one? Lorenz, the Monsoon Larkin, taking on Brad Tavares, the Team Tompkins product. Pardon me. Who you got?
I definitely have Lorenz Larkin in this one. I think he's got more fuel in the to stoke his fire, and I think he, after the Kamal fight, after getting blue balled basically, because he won that fight. Let's be honest. He's not going to let that happen again, and Tavares, he just hasn't fought good enough fighters to show that he's not really that great. I mean, he had a little bit of trouble with Bubba McDaniel, and that's saying something. So I got Lorenz Larkin. I think it's gonna come by second round knockout.
Word, I have Larkin as well. Larkin, the favorite in Vegas, minus 225. Yeah, Tavares versus Larkin. Who you got?
I'm actually going with Brad Tavares. I think he's more dynamic than Lorenz Larkin, and I think he gets it done. I really do. I think this will be his year.
The year of Brad Tavares. We shall see. And really quickly, before we get to the Rockhold Phillippou match, I want to remind everyone to tune into that World Series of Fighting card on Saturday the 18th. Going to be some pretty decent fights. The main card is going to be Rumble Johnson versus Mike Kyle. We also got Jessica Aguilar on the card, Justin Gaethje, Cody Bollinger versus Tyson Nam. Going to be a few good fights on that, so definitely tune into that. Yeah, let's get to the main event of this card, Luke Rockhold versus Costa Phillippou. But before we get to that fight, of course, we got to bring you the stat of the day.
Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Here comes the stat of the day!
Both guys in the main event belong there. Luke Rockhold was the only Strikeforce middleweight champ to defend his belt twice and had the most finishes in Strikeforce history with 7. Costa Phillippou, on the other hand, lands big and from the outside. 71% of his strikes from distance, 88% to the head. That's the most in UFC middleweight history.
Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Here comes the stat of the day!
That was a long stat. I had to talk as fast as I could there. As always, shout out to the Dan Patrick Show, Patrick Seaton, O'Connor, and Jamie Josta for the stat of the day. And that brings us to the fight. Luke Rockhold taking on Costa Phillippou. Rockhold is the favorite in Vegas. Actually, a very big favorite. If I were a betting man, I'd put a little money on Costa just because I think the line is a little crazier than it should be. It's closer than they're expecting it to be. Rockhold is the bigger guy, 6'3", 77-inch reach compared to the Costa Phillippou frame, 5'11", 73 inches. You look at their records of late, Costa Phillippou was on a 5-fight winning streak, which I believe that 5-fight win streak against Jorge Rivera, Jared Hammond, Court McGee, Ricky Fukuda, and Tim Boach, that was the 4th longest win streak in UFC middleweight history. Luke Rockhold was on a giant 9-fight winning streak, including impressive unanimous decision victories against Ronaldo Souza and Tim Kennedy before he just got brutalized by Vitor Belfort in his only fight in 2013. Actually, Costa Phillippou only fought once in 2013 as well, and saw his fight streak get ended by Francis Carmont at UFC 165 via unanimous decision. Both guys want to fight for that title. They know there's a long line in front of them, including guys like Belfort and Machida Jacare, but they got to get back in the win column if they want to sniff that title. I actually have Costa Phillippou in an upset here. Rockhold, he is very impressive, but I think a big reason why he beat Kennedy and Jacare was because they didn't know the fighter that he was. Now that a lot of tape has come out on him, I just don't know if he can stand and bang with a guy like Costa Phillippou, who I mentioned, he loves fighting on the outside, so fighting a bigger guy isn't going to be a big deal. And the guy has a wallop of a punch. So I'm actually taking Costa Phillippou here, fighting out of Long Island, New York. 2013 was a big year for Long Island, and I think that they're definitely going to keep riding that wave. The Cypress Slugger, I have him winning via second round TKO over the pretty boy Luke Rockhold. What do you guys think, Yao? Sorry.
I'm actually going with Luke Rockhold. I think he's, once again, more dynamic than Costa Phillippou. Costa Phillippou has boxing and maybe a leg kick. Luke Rockhold has more weapons, and that alone is enough to get it done.
Alan, what do you think about this main event fight?
Costa Phillippou takes it inside the distance. Costa's not going to let Luke take him down, and that's Luke's only chance of winning this fight because he can't stand up on the feet and trade with Costa. Luke's got that size, but I don't think he matches up well with Costa because, like you said, Costa, the way he likes to sit back and punch from the outside, it Luke's physique perfectly matches up with that. And I don't think Luke is as strong as Carmel was, and I don't think he's going to be able, or that's not going to be his game plan either, to take Costa down and just lay on him.
Word. Well, that was our breakdown of UFC Fight Night 35, and it looks like we're going to put a bow on this and send it out to the world. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said before, we do this every Monday night at midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. If you do want to listen in, be a part of the show, tweet us, all that good shit, and we thank the shit out of it. And if you don't want to listen live, you want to listen some other time, we are on YouTube and iTunes. Just search The MMA Podcast. Visit themmapodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at The MMA Podcast. We're actually going to be doing an episode of the MMA Roundtable with our friends Ray and Jay. That's going to be tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. if you're all the way over in the UK. So definitely keep your ears out for that. The truth, what the hell is going on, where do we find you, and all that good shit.
That was a great show. You can find me on Twitter at Yao_the truth, Instagram as well, and subscribe on YouTube, Yao the Truth. Just type in Yao the Truth, I'll come up.
That's right. Keep your tabs on this motherfucker. And of course, Alan, where do we find you? What's going on?
You can also catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Westland Eagle AH. Yes, Westland, Oregon, Westland Eagle AH.
He is the Westland Eagle. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram. Also follow our buddies Ross Finkelstein, E before the L, our friend Ramsey's at the Aunt Jimmy Show. All of our friends, just if you see me tweeting at them, follow them because they are quality people. I love the people I interact with on a daily basis on Twitter. Once again, thank you so much for supporting the show. We will keep doing this for a long time. We'll be back next week. And until then, we love the shit out of you. We gone.
Chicken mouth.